Good morning. I'm doing a supplementary program today. I'm doing it shortly after I did my morning broadcast and my regular one, Break an Egg. But I raised the topic this morning of how we look at children and how we rip them away from families. And often it's without consultation with those who might well be able to make a contribution to why there is a family problem. One of the things that you do as a journalist is you kick around and you do all sorts of things that perhaps ordinary, everyday people wouldn't do. Sometimes they're pretty distasteful. Sometimes they're very upsetting. But you motor on and you tuck it away, ready to be able to make a contribution, if asked, to any particular debate. Well, the debate about whether we should, excuse me for scratching my nose, should take people away. I started this morning. Not people away, started children away from mothers. I started this morning based on the baby in Chicago that has been abandoned after one day, and the mother leaving a note saying, I've left the baby here, I had to get him out of the house because his father would have killed him. Whether that was true or not is quite beside the point. It's obviously here a distraught mother and a situation with a day-old baby left on the doorstep. But experience and being able to observe have been one of the joys, I suppose, of the fact that I've been around, kicking around journalism and information and communication for the best part of my life. Way back in the 1960s, I found myself in a little place called Wetaskiwin in Alberta. Wetaskiwin is a potty little town. I'm told that it's grown now because of the car industry, but it was a potty little town with one traffic light which sometimes didn't work. They were delightful people. My friend was from the university, was a social worker. In fact, he is a probation officer as well, because in those wild, sprawling parts of Canada, a huge country, you had dual responsibilities. And he asked me if I would like to come with him one day on a particular case where the chief of police of a small town had asked his department, and he'd been assigned it, to go and investigate the case of badly treated children. We got on to a sort of a road. It was a gravel road, and eventually we could nothing more than a bit of dirt track on the edge of fields, and we drove endlessly for miles and miles and miles. No habitation in sight, fields ploughed, seed sown, and not even a farm in sight. And then on the horizon there came some sort of group of buildings, and we arrived in one of the smallest towns I've ever been in. In fact, it was surrounded by a picket fence. Population perhaps 200 or 300. The chief of police greeted us, and he explained that there was a lady in town who had 3 children, that he and the council were concerned that she was a bad mother, and that they felt that the authorities should be alerted. So far, so good. Of course, that was sensible procedure. But my friend then said, well, let's go along and see this lady, which we did. It was a ramshackle house. It stank to high heaven. There were 3 children, poorly dressed, and still having their morning wash required. It turned out that part of the concern of the chief of police was that this lady was behaving as a prostitute. That there were several people in the town who were, to put it bluntly, knocking her off. And that brings to the question of her conduct. It would appear that some of the people that had approached the chief of police were those who had that's the bus had been the very people that had been sharing this lady's bed. So the question arose, is did they want her out of town because of a scandal brewing, or did they want her out of town because of the way she was treating her children? My friend did a very, very thorough investigation. We spent all day there, and he talked to her extensively, he talked to other people extensively, and eventually the kind people of the town agreed that these children were happy enough, they were well fed. Yes, they looked a little scruffy. Yes, she wasn't a good housekeeping mother, but she was a good mother. And it was plainly obvious that there was huge affection between the children and their mother. The children would be about 4 or 5, I guess. And my friend sat down with the chief of police and said, look, you sort out your own backyard, because the blame that's being attached to this woman is not fair. She is a good mother, the children are well fed, the affection is there. If we break up this family, we'll do irreparable harm to the children. Yes, I can do something about monitoring her behavior in terms of cleanliness and making sure that the children are properly looked after. But I'm certainly not going to rip this family apart, because the effect on the children will be enormous. Well, in the sprawling outlands of Alberta, my friend could spend a day. He could spend some time looking after one particular case. I understand that in this country we have perhaps one caseworker to a dozen or more particular families, and that it's impossible to give them the sort of help and assistance and advice and care and attention that would warrant looking after the children. But as I said on my broadcast this morning, I really, really think that this business of patient confidentiality has gone too far. Because like everything else in our society, it's left to a few people who probably know nothing about the case whatsoever to make a judgment that is flawed. We've got to change our approach to how children are handled, how children are assessed in terms of their relationship with their family, and whether or not affection, love, and attention overcome a number of other things. Poor parenting, poor motherhood, poor fatherhood, poor family. But what we're doing at the moment is ripping children away from their mother, sometimes their father, sometimes not bothering to find out what the facts are. It's iniquitous, and it needs looking at. As my friend, the senior judge, said, Keith, we're judges. We sit there and have facts put in front of us, and that's how we make our decisions. And they may be flawed decisions. Yes, reform is needed, and the judiciary do indeed call for it from time to time. Many judges, you know, are real people. They're very nice people. I know a number, and I enjoy their company enormously. But for the full majesty of the law, they need to look, and they're making judgment as if they don't favour one side or the other. And they're not supposed to. So let's not blame the court system. Let's take a look at whether we should be asking the right questions of the right people before the copper, Mr. Plod, goes in and rips a child away from his mother. They don't like doing that. I don't like them doing that. And it's about time that it stopped. Okay, that's just a little extra. But brought on by the 1-year-old, 1-day-old baby in Chicago, left on the doorstep by a mother who'd left a note saying this child was in danger from her father. A 1-year-old baby, one day old baby. Thanks for listening to me for this supplement. Take care. Toodaloo.